England are back in a World Cup semi-final, and somehow they're now just 2 wins away from becoming world champions. But here's the thing, England haven't exactly looked unbeatable. At times they have looked nervous, at times vulnerable, but there have been moments where you genuinely wondered whether this was where it would all fall apart. But somehow, every time the pressures increased, they have survived. So what has changed? Why does this England team keep finding a way when so many talented generations before them fell apart in these exact moments? And that's what is making the semi-final so interesting, because this isn't just about what England have done at this World Cup. You see, England have been here before. They have had great teams before. They have had some of the best players in the world wearing that shirt. And every few years, the country has convinced itself of the same thing. Maybe this is a team. Maybe this is a tournament England will finally do it. And sometimes they have come ridiculously close. Close enough to make an entire country believe that you could almost see the trophy coming home. But then something would happen. A missed penalty, a red card, one stupid mistake, and suddenly everything was over. The players who entered the tournament as heroes go home as villains. And England, they were left waiting all over again. And that has happened again and again for almost 60 years. But now, they are back at another World Cup, another semi-final, another chance to finally change the ending. And if you really want to understand why this moment means so much, you need to understand everything England has gone through just to get back here. To understand why this moment means so much, we need to go all the way back to 1966, Wembley Stadium, England against West Germany. After 120 minutes of drama, Bobby Moore lifted the World Cup. England were champions of the world, and you would think this was only the beginning, right? I mean, England had just won the biggest trophy in football. Surely more would follow. More finals, more trophies, maybe even an era of English dominance. But here's the crazy part, none of that happened. Instead, 1966 has become the moment every England team that followed has been forced to live up to. Every new generation has arrived with the same question, can they do it again? And every 4 years, the country has convinced itself that maybe, just maybe, this is finally the team. But as the years have passed, something has started to change. The longer England have waited, the heavier that expectation has become. Because tournament after tournament, England has arrived with hope. The country would start believing again. They would get close, sometimes really close, and then something would go wrong. And slowly the greatest victory in England's history has become a reminder of everything they have failed to achieve since. And once this cycle started, it just kept getting worse. Take 1990. England were one match away from the World Cup final. They faced West Germany. The game went to penalties, and you could probably guess what happened next. England lost. 6 years later, they got another chance, this time at Wembley, the stadium where they had lifted the World Cup 30 years earlier. And once again, Germany. And this time, Gareth Southgate was the man who missed. But the heartbreak didn't stop there. 2 years later, David Beckham was sent off against Argentina and England went out on penalties. In 2002, Ronaldinho ended another World Cup dream, and then 2006 came round, and guess what happened? Penalties again. By this point, you can see what was happening. England weren't just losing football matches anymore. They were expecting something to go wrong. And when 2010 arrived, there wasn't even the cruelty of penalties. Germany simply tore them apart. 4 goals, another World Cup was over too. Another generation was going home. And slowly, losing stopped feeling like something that happened to England. It started feeling like part of who they were. The shirt became heavier, the pressure became unbearable, and even the players who wore it knew one mistake could turn them from a national hero into the next phase of England's failure. But here's what made it even worse. Because while all this was happening, England had produced a generation of players that should have changed everything. Because just look at the players they had. David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand. I mean, on paper, this team had everything. Premier League champions, Champions League winners, some of the best players in the world. Surely, if any England team was going to end the wait, it had to be this one. Except, they couldn't make it work. The same players who dominated English football with their clubs looked completely different when they played together. Club rivalries followed them into their dressing room. The pressure became suffocating, and tournament after tournament, England's most talented generation fell short. No World Cup, no European Championship, not even a major final, and that left England with one pretty uncomfortable question. If these players couldn't do it, who could? Well, the answer came from someone who knew England's pain better than most, Gareth Southgate. Remember the penalty he missed back in 1996? Well, 20 years later, he was now the man responsible for making sure England's next generation didn't suffer the same fate. And Southgate understood something. England's biggest problem wasn't Germany. It wasn't Argentina or France. It was pressure. So he changed the culture. He brought in young players. He created a closer dressing room. He even prepared them for the one thing England feared more than anything, penalties. And slowly, something started to change. England stopped looking like a team waiting for everything to go wrong. They started believing they could actually win. And for the first time in years, they started going deeper into tournaments. And for a while, it looked like Southgate had actually figured it out. In 2018, England reached a World Cup semi-final, then came the Euro 2020 final at Wembley. England were getting closer. The problem, getting closer only made losing hurt even more. In 2020, another World Cup ended in heartbreak. Then 2 years later, England reached another European Championship final and lost again. You see, England weren't collapsing early anymore. They had become serious contenders. But somehow, they still couldn't finish the story. And with every defeat, the question only got louder. Will England ever win another major trophy? When Southgate walked away, suddenly England had a completely different problem, because the man who had taken them closer than anyone in decades was gone, and nobody knew whether England's progress would live with him. And that brings us to 2026, a new manager, a new era, but the same pressure. Almost 6 years of waiting, and once again, England have arrived at the World Cup with an entire country wondering the same thing. Could this finally be the year? As the tournament has gone on, England have kept finding ways to survive. DR Congo pushed them, Mexico scored twice. There were nervous moments where you wondered if this was where the story would end. But somehow, England have kept moving forward, and suddenly, only Norway has stood between them and another World Cup semi-final. The same Norway team that had already knocked out Brazil. One match, one chance to get back among the final four, and England did it 2-1 in extra time. The final whistle blew, and almost 6 years after Bobby Moore lifted the trophy at Wembley, England are back in a World Cup semi-final. Another generation, another chance, and once again, an entire country is starting to believe. And when you look at everything England has gone through to get here, you realize this semi-final is about so much more than one game. 1966 created the dream, but decades of failure turned the dream into pressure. The golden generation couldn't handle it. Southgate tried to change it, and England came close again and again. But now, another generation stands just 2 victories away from immortality. They are carrying more than the expectations of one country. They are carrying every missed penalty, every red card, every painful defeat, every generation that made England believe only to leave them wondering what could have been. For almost 60 years, England have been chasing the feeling of 1966, and now, after all the pressure, all the disappointment and all the heartbreak, they are closer than almost any generation before them. The only question left is, will this finally be the team that finishes the story?